Today we're going to start sitting in cross legs, or whatever approximation you've got. You can always stick a roll-up towel underneath your hips. That will make it a little bit easier on the legs. So you can sit with your heels one in front of the other like this if it's more comfortable, or just with normal cross legs. So you just need to be in a comfortable position that you can maintain, and just take a nice full easy breath in and out. Then we're going to stretch the arms up as we breathe in and out. And then stretching the arms forward, breathe in, breathe out. Stretching the arms out to the side, breathing in and out. And then stretching your arms forward, breathing in and out. Put your left hand on the floor behind you. When you breathe in, stretch your right arm up and out. Right hand on the floor, left arm up, breathing in and out, just changing. Left hand on the floor, right arm up, and right hand on the floor, left arm up. And when you breathe out, both arms forward, and then breathe in, stretch up. Bring the right hand on the floor next to you, breathe out, side bend. Breathe in, stretch both arms up. Breathe out, side bend to the left. Breathe in, stretch up. Breathe out, side bend right. Breathe in and left. Breathe in and forward. I'm going to take a couple of breaths here. Just letting the breath settle down. You might stretch forward, or you might keep your arms just resting in the head, hanging down. And then just bringing your hands behind you, just a comfortable position. Lift the chest, lift the chin. Breathing in, breathing out. One more, breathing in, breathing out. You're going to twist to the left, so take your right hand across the left knee. Nice and relaxed. I've just got the left fingertips behind me. And then turning to the right. I'm going to turn back to the left. So the right arm is across the leg, and then stretch the left arm up. Just a little bit of a side bend. Your right shoulder comes towards your right knee. And then bring the hand back down and just turn it a little bit more. And then again, stretch that left arm up. Just a little bit of a side bend. And back down. And then turning around to the right. Just a nice easy breath. I'm going to keep the left hand across that knee and stretch the right arm up. It's a bit of a side bend, left shoulder towards the left knee, but it doesn't need to be low. It's going to be quite upright if you like. Coming back down, just a little bit more twist. And then side bend. And twist. And then back to the front, stretching the arms forward. And inhaling, coming up, bringing the hands back. This time I'm going to unfold the legs, press down with the feet and the hands, lift the chest, and maybe lift the hips. And back down. Just reaching forward through the feet. And come again. So you can just lift the chest if you want, or if you feel like you can lift the feet, do that as well. And then forward. And last one. Coming back and lifting up. And forward. Inhale, sitting back up. Just going to turn both feet towards the left and both knees towards the right, twisting to the right. I've got my hand on the foot, but you could bring your hand to the right knee if you wanted to. Turning back to the front and then twisting to the left. Then back to the front and just lean back. Swap the legs so both feet point to the right. Turning to the left first. I'm not trying to hold the hips on the floor, just letting them follow me around. And then turning to the right. And back to the front, bring the feet to touch and open the knees wide. Now bring your hands back so you can lean back. And then just squeeze the outer knees down towards the floor, so just using the strength of the hips to open the knees up. And then lay down onto your back, same position in the legs, have the arms by the side, press your feet down into the floor, try to lift your hips off the floor. Doesn't need to be high, but it's the hips lift up and the feet press down. Bring your hips back down. Sit back up, squeeze the knees open. And either stay here if you want to stretch forward, you can stretch forward. Try not to pull yourself forward, just go where the hips will let you go. Inhale, come back up, bring the legs back into cross. I'm going to put the opposite leg to the front, if you can remember which leg you had at the front. Don't worry about it too much, I'm pretty sure 10 minutes of yoga will not leave you wonkier than you are already. You're going to stretch the right arm up and over to the left, breathe in. Left arm up and over to the right, breathe in. Both hands stretch forward as far as they can, breathe out. And then bring the hands back behind you. I'm going to bring the feet so they're as wide as the mat. Roll back. Hug the knees towards the chest. And then from here, we're going to try and roll forward to squat. So you want to be quite quick. Turn that into a forward bend. Stretch up through the back of the leg. Put your weight back into the heel and then just shift from side to side. Walk your hands around to the right and then around to the left. Bring your hands back to the center. We're going to step the feet back, knees down, child's pose. From here we're going to roll forward to all fours. And then roll back, child's pose, and roll forward, and back. This time I'm going to roll forward and come into upward facing dog, but you can stay with all fours if you want. And back to child's pose, and again forward, upward facing dog, and back to child's pose. Take your right arm and just thread it underneath the left. Let your head drop to the floor, you're just looking underneath that left arm, stretching the left arm forward, and right arm out to the side. And then unthread the right arm, thread the left arm underneath the right. Let your head drop to the floor if you can, stretch the right arm forward, and the left arm out to the side. And then unthread the left arm. Reach the fingertips as far forward as you can. And then roll forward onto all fours again. Stretch the right leg back. Really reach the toes as far back as you can. Then bring the leg back down. Stretch the left leg. Reach the toes back. And bring the leg back down. We're going to stretch the right leg back as far as you can. Then bend the knee and shoot the leg out to the side. Let the foot come to the floor with the toes pointing forward. We're just going to stretch back with the hips as far as you can. And then stretch forward with the chest. One more stretch back as far as you can. And stretch forward with the chest. Back to all fours. Bend the knee, pull the leg in. Bring the knee to the floor. Stretch the left leg back. Bend the knees, stretch the leg out to the side, toes pointing forward. Stretch back as far as you can. Stretch forward as far as you comfortably can. Stretching back. Stretching forward. Back to all fours. Just bend the knee, bring the leg back in. Push back, child's pose. Walk your arms around to the left side. And then around to the right side. Then back to the center. Just take your knees as wide as the mat or maybe wider and let your chest sink down towards the floor. You can turn the head to the side if you prefer. You're going to roll forward onto the knees. Just separate your feet as wide as the knees are now. We're going to push back into downward facing dog. So press down with your fingertips, tuck the toes under. When you push back, your feet will be quite wide and it should be easier to stretch the legs with this wider foot position. You might be able to straighten the knees, you might not. Maybe your heels can stretch down to the floor, maybe not. We're going to roll forward, knees to the floor, trying to keep them wide, upward facing dog. Push back into that wide stance, downward facing dog. Once more, rolling forward, upward facing dog. And rolling back, downward facing dog. Walk your hands back towards your feet. You might get close, you might not. We're just in a wide stance, forward bend here. You can bend the knees if you like. Maybe you can drop your head towards the floor. If you feel like it's a little bit too much, you can rest the forearms on the thighs. I'm going to keep the left hand on the floor, turn the chest to the right. Maybe put the right hand on the right hip, or if it's available, stretch the other one up. Bring the hand back down. We're going to just swap hands. The right hand is on the floor, the left hand is on the left hip. Or stretching up. Bring the left hand back down to the floor. Walk your hands forward, downward facing dog. You're going to step the feet all the way up to the hands to come into sitting. Maybe you can sit into cross legs. If you've got your own exciting variation. Just lay down onto your back. And hug the knees into the chest. And just rock the hips from side to side. Then bring the feet to the floor and stretch your arms out to the side. I've got my feet touching and my knees touching. The feet stay in contact with the floor as you roll the knees from side to side. They might roll all the way over, they might not. Next time you get to the middle, we're going to bring the feet wide, preferably wider than the mat. The knees are bent. So now if I roll the knees to the right, see how the left leg the left thigh rolls straight down from the hip. So now I'm rolling the thigh bone in the hip socket rather than rotating through the back. So it should feel comfortable. Don't press until it's uncomfortable in the knees. Try to get your feet in a position that lets you roll the thigh from side to side. Just nice and easy. The next time that the knees come up to the center, just going to bring the feet back to touch. Roll the knees over to the right. So we're going to stay here for a couple of breaths. So you need to get yourself in a position that feels comfortable. For me, I'm going to shift the hips a little bit to the left, so the knees roll over a little bit easier. But you can kind of fidget around until you get in a position that feels good. I'll just take a couple of nice full inhale and exhale here. And then roll the knees back up to the center. So we're going to the left. So I'm going to shift my hips over to the right a little bit so that the knees fall a little bit easier to the left. Just a nice steady breath. And then back up to the center. Then bring the feet to touch, but let the knees come open to the side. Stretch your arms straight up towards the ceiling. Pull the right fingertips up as high as they'll go. And then sink back down until you drop that shoulder back down to the floor. Then pull those left fingertips stretching up towards the ceiling as high as you can. And then sink that left shoulder back down into the floor. Then when you breathe in, I want you to stretch the arms up over your head. And when you breathe out, bring the hands by the side and squeeze the knees together. And then breathe in, stretch up and separate the knees. Breathe out, hands come down, knees squeeze back up. One more, breathe in. And then breathe out. Then just separate your feet till they're as wide as the mat. Let the knees rest against each other. And bring your hands just to rest on your tummy and close your eyes. And when you let your breath settle down to just its normal relaxed pattern, you should feel when you breathe in, your stomach sort of swells up towards your hands. And when you breathe out, it sinks back down. So when you breathe in, the lungs expand, they push the contents of your tummy or your abdominal cavity out and down, so that's that expansion. And then when you breathe out, the lungs flatten back down and everything moves back up inside the torso. So I just want you to feel that with your hands. Breathing in and feeling that expansion, and breathing out and feeling the stomach settle back down. And in a moment, the video is going to finish, but you can stay here and feel the movement of your breath for as long as you need to.